Before we dive in, who is this video for? Well, if you're a language teacher, whether you teach English as a second language or as a foreign language, and you've noticed your students are struggling to speak fluently because they're mentally translating every single sentence, then this video is for you. We know that as long as students rely on translating in their heads, fluency is never going to happen. But here's the thing, does this mean we should ban their first language completely? Not exactly. In fact, research shows that translanguaging, that is using multiple languages as a tool, can actually help students understand complex ideas faster. So today I'm sharing science-backed strategies to help students think in English, while also looking at when translanguaging can actually be useful. Let's get into it. First, let's talk about why this happens. Translation is natural because our brains are wired to use what's familiar. When students learn English, they're not just picking up words, they're fighting against years of L1 dominance. The problem? Translation slows them down. Research by Dr. Kroll and Tokowitz on bilingual processing shows that switching between languages takes extra cognitive effort, making speaking feel clunky and unnatural. But does that mean students should never use their first language in class? Some research, like the work of Ophelia Garcia, suggests that allowing students to use their L1 strategically can actually help them learn more deeply. So instead of seeing L1 as an enemy, think of it as a temporary support that helps them move toward English fluency in a faster fashion. So when is translanguaging actually helpful? For complex concepts, if a student is struggling with a new grammar rule or an abstract idea, a quick explanation in their L1 can help them understand the concept better. For brainstorming and critical thinking, allowing students to process ideas in their first language before producing English output can lead to more thoughtful responses. For building confidence, if a student is stuck, acknowledging their L1 as a resource can lower anxiety and encourage risk-taking in English. But this is important. If students rely on L1 too much, they stay in the habit of translating instead of thinking in English. So, translanguaging should be a scaffold, not a crutch. One of the biggest mistakes? Teaching students to connect English words to their L1 first. Instead, we need to train their brains to connect English words directly to meaning without the translation step. Let me give you a simple example. If you say apple and then the student thinks manzana, that is Spanish for apple, they're translating. But if you say apple and they picture a red round fruit, now they're thinking in English. So how do we do this? Use flashcards with images only, no translations. Play fast response games where students point to objects instead of translating. Use real-life objects and gestures when introducing new words. You know, the brain is faster with visual memory than with word-to-word connections. So we should teach it in a way that skips the middle steps. Look, I love a good dictionary as much as the next person, but if students are constantly looking up translations, they're reinforcing the translation habit. Instead, encourage students to use English-to-English dictionaries like Oxford Learner's Dictionary. This forces them to process meaning in English instead of relying on their L1. My quick tip, challenge the students. If they don't know a word, they can describe it in English instead of translating. For example, instead of translating giraffe, say it's a very tall animal with a long neck. Instead of translating frustrated, say it's when you feel angry because something is difficult. This builds paraphrasing skills and gets the students comfortable thinking around unknown words. Now, when students take too long to answer, what is happening? Yes, they're mentally translating, rearranging grammar, and then speaking. We need to cut this lag time. Try the 5-second rule. If a student doesn't respond within 5 seconds, they have to say anything, even if it's just, I don't know. This trains them to respond quickly instead of getting stuck in the translation mode. My bonus hack: do speed drills where students answer questions as fast as possible. No thinking aloud. By the way, in my previous video, how to teach vocabulary that sticks, I covered some practical strategies to help you teach words in a more memorable way. Because here's the thing, students can't think in English if they don't remember the words. So if you want to know how to make vocabulary more memorable so students don't have to translate, check out this video here. You don't need to live in an English-speaking country to think in English, but you do need to create an English-only environment. In class, this means no translating instructions. Give explanations in simple English. No switching to L1 when students struggle. Help them navigate the problem in English. Introduce a survival English list. These are basic phrases like how do you say this or that. So they stay in English even when stuck. But as we previously discussed, translanguaging has its own place. So the key is knowing when to allow L1 as a tool and when to push students to stay in English. Here's the thing, thinking in English doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. But the more we create direct connections between English and meaning, the faster students break the translation habit. So, if you're teaching a second language, try these strategies and watch your students start to think and speak more naturally. Now tell me, what's your best tip for helping students think in English? Drop it in the comments section below. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss the next one. See you in the next video.